And conservatives are really concerned about pedophiles.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like pedophiles either, but I don't think about it all the time.
Was one of the things you do in the film is kind of confront one of the QAnon folks, where his concern is that everybody's a pedophile, and you showed to him.
Well, calls himself a pedophile hunter and makes videos exposing Democratic elite pedophile cabals, and is himself a convicted child molester. There's an old thing that people say that every confession, every accusation is a confession.
In this video, Lex Fridman talks with Andrew Callaghan, and as we see from the beginning, they cover a variety of subjects, including one of my go-to phrases about the right, that every accusation is a confession. Why don't we check this out together? I'll have some opinions, and then I want to know what you think about it in the comments.
Just on your own politics, is it fair to say that your politics leans left?
I'm not really sure sometimes. You know, I like to think that I am socially left. Like, I think people should be able to dress and act like however they want. I don't believe in restricting people's social freedoms. I don't know. I don't really see myself as left or right. I just never have.
Well, if you just like objectively zoom out and don't have an insane standard of the extremes, it feels like a lot of your work leans left.
Lex seems bent on pigeonholing Andrew Callaghan into a leftist box, and he sort of doesn't let go of the idea, but Andrew Callaghan just stays nuanced. I think it's kind of refreshing.
I tend to lean toward like the empathetic perspective, which I do think is more on the left than the right. But I'm not into like super like PC stuff. You know, I don't believe in limiting free speech either. I believe in a free internet, which I think is more embraced now by conservatives.
But it does seem that, maybe you can correct me, but I get the sense sometimes that the left attack their own very intensely.
It does happen, but every community has terms of exile. I mean, think about what happens in the conservative realm. You know, like when Black Rifle Coffee Company like denounced Kyle Rittenhouse, they lost a lot of money too. Like, it's not the right attacks its own too. I mean, think about Bud Light and stuff. Like
terms of exile.
I mean, you know, like every community has terms of exile. You just got to know who you're engaging with, and you got to make that decision carefully.
It'd be nice if there's an actual write-up of the things you're not allowed to say for each thing. And then I wonder whose list would be longer. It just does feel like the left's list is a little longer.
If you're a conservative and you have a t-shirt with like a demon on it, like, say goodbye. Yeah. You know what I mean? You know, there's certain stuff that they freak the hell out about.
And conservatives are really concerned about pedophiles.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like pedophiles either, but I don't think about it all the time.
Was one of the things you do in the film is kind of confront one of the QAnon folks, where his concern is that everybody's a pedophile, and you showed to him.
Well, calls himself a pedophile hunter and makes videos exposing Democratic elite pedophile cabals, and is himself a convicted child molester. There's an old thing that people say that every accusation is a confession to a certain extent. So like, it's bizarre that some people's whole life after a big mistake will revolve around trying to seem like the good guy instead of taking accountability for themselves.
Yeah.
It's a common thing you see all the time. Like neighborhood watch people. You know what I mean? Like, what made you that? You know, like, what did you do, bro? That you feel like you have to get karmic retribution by doing the reverse. I don't get it.
Yeah. Do you think, to the degree you have bias, it affects your journalism?
No, but I mean, with the migrant situation, I don't know.
What was that covering that like?
I just got a lot of hate from conservatives for like letting the migrants tell their stories about their journey and stuff.
What did you learn from just going to the border?
I mean, just the sheer desperation that the citizens of the world are in. I mean, there's people who truly believe that America is the only hope for their success and to feed their family. And I think a lot of them are kind of getting catfished.
Meaning America has its problems too?
It has severe problems. There's extreme poverty here.
But in America, like if you just compare it to other nations, the level of corruption is much lower, to where the opportunity for a person to succeed, to rise, is higher.
I wish success on everybody who comes here. But my thing is the expectation that they have and the sort of American dream propaganda they've been installed with isn't necessarily a reflection of contemporary American reality. So I'm talking to people who speak no English and say, I'm here for a better life. I go, where are you going to go? They say, I have no idea. And I'm like, man, that's tough. And you almost think, how bad are things elsewhere for someone to abandon their family, make this journey across multiple continents, and end up here with no plan?
Yeah, that's an empathy exercise I like to do too. I mean, we talk about people from South America, not just Mexico, but from South America. They cross multiple countries through the jungle on foot. Like it's this epic journey to get here with no welcome. The gates are closed. I think, I don't know if they're being led to believe that it's going to be easy to get into the country or not, but it's pretty clear from this side that, we are not welcoming migrants from the South. How bad does it have to be to think that that's your better choice? And again, like he says, with no plan. I think Andrew Callaghan is absolutely right on that point.
And it just made me realize how sheltered I am to a certain extent as an American. And walking back what I said a little bit, because I was just trying to make a point.
Yeah.
But what I think of as bad poverty, like let's say West Baltimore or Ninth Ward New Orleans, is nothing compared to what's going on in almost half of the world, if not more. Mm-hmm. And so it just made me zoom out a little bit. And sometimes you forget about third world poverty when you live here for so long. And you get programmed to believe the worst things that are out there is like Kensington, Philadelphia, or Tenderloin, San Francisco. But those are just microcosms of more or less functioning cities. Despite what they might lead you to believe, Philadelphia is a great place. So is San Francisco. But there's places where everywhere is really run down.
Yeah, and like people focus on in major cities in the United States, like homelessness, somehow that's a sign of a fallen empire.
Right.
But, that's a problem. There's definitely, it reveals some mismanagement of cities and government.
I mean, homelessness in Seattle and San Francisco is for sure a result of the housing crisis, especially post-COVID and all the gentrification that preceded it, and it's unfortunate now that the conservative media is saying, like, look at Biden's America, as if Biden created homeless people. And it's just disappointing because once again, you're seeing the media use real issues that should concern every U.S. citizen and causing people to point fingers at a different political party as responsible for the suffering of others.
That's really divide and conquer. That's the Republicans didn't invent that. That goes all the way back. It's convince the poor that the reason they're poor is actually the even poorer, and you get the poor and the even poorer to view themselves as different classes, and then you pit them against each other. Or from another example, a liberal billionaire is an elite, a George Soros, right? But somehow a Republican billionaire is on your team, is fighting for the working class. I mean, it's absurd, but it's effective.
Do you think January 6th can happen again?
No. I don't think so.
So all the lessons were learned?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people got really screwed over. I mean,
don't you have a sense that there's a greater and greater growing questioning of the electoral process and all this kind of stuff?
I think that Americans overall are very comfortable with our standard of living. I think people like going to Sonic and waiting in their car and getting milkshakes, and people like going to the AMC theaters, and they like going ice skating and mini golfing and going to the bar after work. I don't think that anyone wants a collapse of the basic structure of the country. Even the most politically divided don't want to see 7-Eleven go away. We are so comfortable. If you look at other countries, even Europe, look at how they protest. And look at the Arab Spring. Those guys were talking like January 6ers, and they actually took control of the government.
Yeah.
And so think about, even if the MAGA crowd took over the Capitol building, it's just a building. I don't know. I just think that Americans, when they talk about Civil War stuff, it's just we're so far from that. Even if the rhetoric is as divided as it was in 2020, it won't happen again.
For it to really happen, it has to be there has to be a level of desperation.
There has to be a level of economic desperation that's causing people to starve, or some basic resource going away. Water, something like that.
I got to give Lex Fridman points for that line. Lessons were learned. The lessons were learned. I get what Andrew Callaghan is saying here, and I understand the violent uprising of January 6th, although we are seeing ICE in a militarized, no IDs covering their faces, no warrants, no accountability. That's really alarming, and that feels a different kind of violence in our streets. But my fear is that with Russell Vogt and the Project 2025 guys following that playbook, that it's going to be a softer coup. There won't need to be nooses and that overt violence. They're just going to manipulate the election. And it's not going to be a free and fair election anymore. And if they can resist, it'll look close. If they can't resist, it'll look like it does in Russia, where Trump, for his third term or whatever, the Republican candidate in his place, wins by 90% of the vote. And it's insane and absurd on its face, but nobody will be able to do anything about it. That's my current fear, not another January 6th.
There was a controversy a year ago where a woman came forward and said that you were pushy with her. You respected the no, you got the consent, but you were pushy about it. Looking back, can you tell the story of that? What are the lessons you learned from it?
Yeah, I mean, I've yet to speak on this for a lot of reasons, mostly because it was a hard time and it's a sensitive subject, and I've wanted to prioritize the reporting, but I think that now I'm ready and able to do so. Everything sort of started on December 30th, 2022, and that was the release date of the HBO project. Like I told you, we didn't know when the movie was going to come out. We weren't told that it was going to come out on that date until early November. And so it was like, oh my God, here we go. We got a movie coming out. HBO I didn't even know it was going to be them. So every day for those 50 days to where I received word and to the movie announcement or to the movie release was like, I was like a kid waiting for Christmas morning. You know what I mean? It was like every day I saw the movie release date as the first day of like the rest of my life. And so I remember the week of the movie release, it was like every day I was like, oh my God, 6 days, 5 days, 4 days. And when it became 2 days, like I was so excited and so like honestly anxiety riddled because it was such a massive platform that I went out to the desert by myself out in the Mojave, got a hotel and just kind of sat there. And then movie release day comes. It was supposed to come out at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I remember it was like 12 hours left, 10 hours left. And then 8 minutes before the movie at 7:52, or I guess it was sent at 10:52 East Coast time, I got a text message requesting a portion of my fat HBO check to contribute toward apparently years of therapy bills that this person had accrued after she says that she felt that I pressured her into giving consent years prior. And I was confused, not only because of the timing, but because this is someone that I hadn't seen in years or spoken to in years, and I presumed that I was on good terms with. So I didn't respond to the text message. And then when I didn't respond, about 7 days later, this person made some TikTok videos and with the help of some friends, launched an online campaign that got picked up by the press pretty quickly.
So what did you feel like when you got that text?
Well, it's tough because on one hand, I'm not opposed to restitution being part of a private accountability process for real abuse. Like if you've hurt someone to an extent that it took them out of work or something, like I think they're entitled to some money. But unfortunately, as I later learned, this person had legal counsel, and this was an attempt to basically create evidence by extracting a confession from me to use as precedent for a civil lawsuit to the tune of a couple $1 million.
Oh, snap. I didn't know we were going to go to a Me Too place, but it's always wild hearing one person's side of it. I don't know anything about the case, so I can't comment on that, but I wanted to leave that part in just because it gets so intense. And I think that listening to Andrew Callaghan talk so reasonably throughout and then totally switching subjects onto a Me Too thing where he's accused, of course you're going to try and downplay it. Maybe I'm not saying he did. I know nothing about the case. I'm just pointing out the juxtaposition of talking about the migrant situation, the divide and conquer situation, and then, hey, you've been accused of a thing, and getting into that subject of like, what was that like for you? And your legal counsel is going to say, don't do anything or say anything that could be construed as a confession. You know, whether you did it or not, that's the strategy. And it's just so, it leaves such a, that predates Trump, but, deny, just leaves, there's no accountability for anything anymore? Again, I'm not talking about Andrew Callaghan in this moment. I don't know, man. Let me know what you think in the comments.